Doug! We are well into rookie draft season. Are you feeling the fever?
That's why I'm check and see.
Oh, dear God.
Okay.
No. That's enough. No, you're not going to say anything else?
So come on, baby. You do more than dance.
You need help. Oh, why live easy when you can die hard? Welcome to the Diehards. I am your host, JJ Wetter, and I am joined by the songbird of his generation, Doug Orth. Tonight on the show, we are delving into Dynasty by conducting our own 2-round rookie, 1 QB rookie mock draft. And to do this, we have invited some of my favorite fantasy minds onto the show. First up, the man, the myth, the legend, writer extraordinaire for Club Fantasy and IDP Plus, the Joel Worth. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. It's good to be back, and it's about time to get back into things.
It's always good to see you, my friend. I know it's fantasy season
likewise.
When Joel Worth comes onto my pod. Next up is the newest addition to the Fantasy and Frames family, my co-host on the Rider Dynasty podcast. It's Joe Harlow.
What's up? Thanks for having me, guys.
Fantasy and Frames treating you well?
Very well.
That's what I
very,
like
very well.
Here. Now, last in order, but obviously first in my heart, the other co-host on the Rider Dynasty podcast. It's Jameson Hutchinson. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing good. It's been a while. I got to make sure I still got my fastball, but it's rookie mock draft season. We're going to do this for a little while until we get blue in the face, and then we're just going to keep it on. So I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully I don't hold everybody back, but we'll see. Like I said, I got to still see if I got it.
We're going to keep you on a pitch count just to make sure you don't wear out the shoulder early in this pod season, my friend. Now, Doug, is there anything that the good people should know before we begin?
Well, just to reiterate, we are doing a 2-round, 1 QB PPR rookie mock draft. Each of the drafters will have 3 picks per round. We'll get to how we're going to break down the order in just a bit. But feel free to chime in comments and let us know what you think of the picks or something like that.
All right. Well, before we start, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the crew from Fantasy and Frames. Joe, Jameson, and I are going to be relaunching the Ride or Dynasty podcast tomorrow night. And we're going to show up every Thursday at 8 p.m. So look for the live stream where we will talk about all aspects of fantasy football. All right, gentlemen. What better place to start than at the very beginning? Here we are. I randomized the order of picks. Picking from the 1, 5, and 9 slot is Jameson. Picking from the 2, 6, and 10 is Joe. Doug has the 3, 7, and 11. Joel, you're batting cleanup with the 4, 8, and 12. Now, J-Mo, we're all waiting to see where you are going to go first.
Well, I was hoping to get something different so I can spice it up, but it just seems like number 1 is stone cold lock. So I'll go with Ashton Jeanty here, running back out of Boise State, going to the Raiders. This is probably going to be your 101 in most rookie mock drafts. Is just a really special prospect and ends up in a landing spot where he doesn't really have any competition as far as the backfield goes. He goes from former Seattle coach Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, 2 guys who are known to establish it. So if there's anybody who's going to get plenty of work, I mean, it's going to be Ashton Jeanty. So it ends up, they get a new quarterback with Geno Smith. They got a couple new wide receivers, got Brock Bowers, the elite tight end. So kind of really sets up nice for this, Vegas offense and Ashton Jeanty to, end up being just kind of a workhorse back and end up being just, an awesome fantasy asset, especially in redraft. I'm not be surprised to see him in the first round as a rookie this year. People are going to get really excited about him.
All right, sir. Well, with the number 2 pick, Joe, where are you going?
Well, AutoPick spoiled it, but I am going to take Omarion Hampton for the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't know if he's necessarily the number 2 pick this year for redraft leagues. However, with Najee Harris there does mean something. I don't think it really detracts from his long-term value, but overall, Hampton, I think, is going to be a workhorse in that Greg Roman offense. He has an elite quarterback with him and Justin Herbert, and it's set up for him to just really run down the throats of defenses, get a lot of touchdowns. He'll have work as a check down back. I thought the gap between him and Ashton Jeanty was smaller than between Hampton and that next year of running backs. Had a true first-round grade, one of the highest graded running backs I've had aside from Jeanty in the past few years. So I think it's a home run pick. Now, if you are more of a competitive team and somehow have the second pick, I can see going another way. Or if you're in an IDP league, Travis Hunter would be the clear pick here. But for now, with this setup, we're going to Hampton.
All right. Omarion Hampton off the board at number 2. Now, Doug, Mr. Brommel just wanted to let us know that at our age, he recommends walking over running anywhere. So I think he's talking about you.
I don't know. After hearing my open, I don't know how he could be saying anything negative. So I'm going to keep running.
Oh, dear Lord. All right, Doug, where are you going with the 3rd pick?
This is a dilemma I'm going to have in one of my most important leagues, where obviously having to choose between the 2 receivers at this point. I've kind of waffled back and forth between Tetairoa McMillan and Travis Hunter. And for the purposes of this conversation, and for right now, I'm going to go with McMillan. So you could, to me, it's in this case, it's 3A and 3B, or I mean, the receipt, it's 50 and 50. I don't know how to separate the two, other than the fact that McMillan is for sure going to be a full-time receiver. That's about the only thing I can. Their games are much different. Anyway, I'm just going to spout off about McMillan for a little bit, because I understand why the pick could easily be Hunter. McMillan should and will be considered the team's X receiver as soon as he steps on the field for his first practice. It's worth noting that at least part of head coach Dave Canales' desire to draft him was likely to emulate what he had with Mike Evans during his short tenure as the Bucs play caller in 2023. I think he will be used similarly to Evans and Canales' offense, but I don't think they're all that similar otherwise. Now, most of the draft community believes that McMillan is a lesser version of Drake London and devalued him, at least in part because of the "I don't like to watch film" comment he made after his freshman season in college. I think the London comp is actually selling him short, as I think McMillan is a more fluid mover and better overall athlete. McMillan profiles more like Larry Fitzgerald in my estimation, but the bigger point is that he shouldn't have to wait long to be the focal point of the passing game.
All right. So Tet McMillan. Oh, he doesn't like that. Sorry, Mr. McMillan off the board at 3. Joel, where are you going with the next pick?
Yeah, I'm a little bummed because I've got McMillan as a pretty clear number 2 in this class. I think he's special. I think you've got like the Mike Evans just floor with him, where he's just going to kick out 80 catches, 1,100 yards, and double-digit touchdowns for the next decade. So I think that's a great pick. I'm going to go. I'm tempted to take Hunter, but I'm going to take TreVeyon Henderson. I think he's this. I'm going to disagree with Joe a little bit. I think he's the second best running back in this class. He's got. He can break to the outside. He can get outside. He can bust off long runs pretty easily. And that's in his skill set. The only real knock on him is he wasn't really able to stay healthy at Ohio State. He had some injury issues. He's an incredible pass protector, and I think that that's going to set well with Vrabel. I think he's going to be the starter from day one. I think he just instantly just puts Ramondre Stevenson into a handcuff role. So Hunter's tempting, but I'm just a little nervous about the usage. I'm a little nervous about, if they try to put it in the secondary, is that going to limit how many snaps he can play on offense? So I'm going to take, I think, the surer thing in TreVeyon Henderson.
All right. TreVeyon Henderson off the board at 4. We are back to Jameson. Where are you going with pick number 5?
Well, I'm frustrated that I'm in a room where everybody seems to like Tet McMillan, because that's who I wanted. But I'll go Travis Hunter. And I'm not going to sell him short. He's an awesome prospect. The one thing we are worried about, and we probably won't see much of until training camp, is just see how much defense he plays. He'll find out, sure enough, that wide receivers get paid more than cornerbacks. So hopefully that'll change his tune a little bit. But I think there's a lot of untapped potential in his game. The word generational gets thrown a lot. I mean, he's about as close to it as can be. Just the athlete, all the stuff off the field seems to be really good with him as far as being a teammate, some of his accomplishments, that sort of thing. And then this Jaguars offense, just with Liam Cohen in town, just kind of changes its trajectory where they bring in all these guys. They have BTJ. It's just going to be explosive. And that's what Travis Hunter ends up being. He ends up being the wide receiver 2 to BTJ. And I mean, both these guys are going to have big weeks. Kind of similar to maybe like an AJ Brown or Devontae Smith, where maybe both of them like each week aren't going nuclear, but one guy will have a big game, the other one be something different like that. But Travis Hunter, I think he just has a lot of untapped potential at wide receiver if he plays full time. I'm hoping at least 70%. I know he wants to play defense and do all that jazz, but NFL is a lot different. I know he's stayed healthy so far, but I mean, the NFL is a lot different than college too. But it's just very hard to pass up on him right here. I feel like he's falling a little bit.
Joe, in IDP Dynasty rookie drafts,
yes,
where are you taking Travis Hunter?
101 without a doubt. He's clearly above Jeanty in those leagues, I think, especially sleepers letting him be a DB. If that's the case, then it's not close.
All right. So Joe, pick is yours at number 6.
So I'm going to go with another running back here that in Quinshon Judkins. He was my running back 3 going in. I think he's still in the RB3 or 4 range with TreVeyon Henderson, kind of depending on scoring, where you're at in the build. I would lean Henderson over Judkins right now, just the Drake May versus Kenny Pickett / Dylan Gabriel / Shedeur Sanders of it all. But I think there's a clear
Joe
delineation
Flacco
of quarterback. We don't care. Judkins is a nightmare to tackle. Absolute bruising running back. He looked like a true first-round pick that in his historic freshman year at Ole Miss. And then this year, especially in the college football playoff and right before that, really turned it on and began to look like that first-round prospect he was coming into or before transferring to Ohio State. I think he is a true bell cow potential. Like Hampton this year might be a little dicey just with the quarterback situation, but I think the talent's just is too good to pass up on here.
All right. So Quinshon Judkins goes at number 6. Doug, where are you going with the 7th pick?
Yeah, I want to say to everybody, this is not breaking news, but after the first 4 or 5 picks, I think we're kind of in a grab bag scenario from basically 1-6 until about 2-2, maybe even 2-4, depending on how your draft breaks. So basically my next 2 picks are going to be, they might end up being 112 and 2-2 in somebody else's draft. It's just obviously like the guys. I think the next 2 picks I'm going to make are going to be guys that are that I like that maybe other people are going to be sour on for whatever reason. But my pick here at number 7, 107, is going to be Colston Loveland.
Love that pick.
And so why? Well, using the first pick of the Ben Johnson era on a move tight end is a strong indication that the Bears view Loveland in a similar light as Sam Laporta. Now, how Johnson plans to utilize Loveland and Cole Kmet in the meantime will be interesting, but I tend to believe that will only be a problem for fantasy managers in 2025. With that said, I think Loveland will be the preferred option of the 2 right away and handle most of the targets that went to Keenan Allen last season. The upside with Loveland is that his presence changes the personnel defenses will use against the Bears, likely keeping an extra safety or linebacker on the field as opposed to a nickel corner. Loveland is the quintessential, quote-unquote, too big for defensive backs and too fast for linebackers tight end. And being that is what he is, Loveland will create mismatches for defense coordinators who would rather focus on trying to stop DJ Moore and Rome Odunze week after week. Now, he may not be the 2025 version of rookie year Sam Laporta per se, but I think fantasy managers should expect Johnson to use him in the same way.
All right. Colston Loveland, the first tight end off the board at pick 107. Joel, where are you going next?
I think at this point, it's a pretty clear delineation of where, is it a tight end premium league or not? If it was, I think I would take Tyler Warren, but since I don't know if it is or not, I'm going to take Kaleb Johnson at Pittsburgh. I think he's just a really good fit for the Arthur Smith offense. I think there's some concern that Jaylen Warren's still there. I think they're just going to go back to their same roles with Johnson just taking over the Najee Harris role. And Warren's a free agent after next year. Johnson's a much better fit for the Arthur Smith offense. He's actually a really good fit for that offense. So I think he's going to have a very solid career in Pittsburgh. So I'll take him. I think he's a real safe option here.
Joel, if I can interrupt real quick, that was who I was deciding between. So, and I thought he might actually step down to my next pick. So, kudos to you.
How long do you both think until he gets Cordarrelle Patterson is getting snaps ahead of him?
Week three.
Too soon for that.
That's cold.
Sorry, Steelers fans.
That is cold.
I will say Kenny Gainwell being there, I think, is something to at least remember.
Mascot backs. That's what I call people like Gainwell. All right. Pick number 9, Jameson. Where are we going?
It's got a couple choices here. I'm going to go with the number 1 overall pick in Cam Ward. I know right now it is not that exciting just because it's Calvin Ridley and friends, but you can see some of these teams, it takes like 1 year and one off season where he ends up with a couple weapons. The offense gets exciting. Cam Ward, a lot of his awareness and his creativity in college, a lot of college production, and then he's got, a deep ball as well to go with it. So if he gets some playmakers to go with him, kind of outlook wise, this upcoming season, probably not going to be the prettiest, but I mean, he does go on the run some, so he does have some of that upside rushing wise. I'm not trying to compare him to a guy like Jaden Daniels, but last year before the season, people were not excited about the Commanders, and they end up in the NFC Championship. So I'm not here to say that the Titans will be in the AFC Championship. I'm not going that far, but just try to have some open-mindedness. And, I mean, he was the number 1 overall pick for a reason, so I expect him to, lift the team up and do that sort of thing. So, but like Doug said earlier, there's a lot of different picks. Like you guys talked about Kaleb Johnson. I'm not as high on as they are. I mean, I would have gotten him much later, but, this kind of area of the draft, just dart throws, and if you got some guys that you really like, I think you should commit to them.
All right, so you heard it here first. Jameson is guaranteeing the Tennessee Titans make the divisional playoffs.
That's
cool. That's brisk, baby. That's brisk.
Listen, we like that, buddy.
Time out.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I said last year that Will Levis might be fantasy relevant, so please do not listen to anything I say.
You did, and I did draft him on a team saying, well, Jameson's got to be right.
This is what happens when you're optimistic and have hope. That's the problem here. But
well, wait till you get to 50, buddy. All that hope is drained out of you. Joel, in a super flex league, where are you taking Cam Ward?
I'm not super high on Ward, and I was kind of surprised that I've done a bunch of rookie drafts already, and the market is not really high on him either. I thought he would just be kind of the slam dunk number 2 in Superflex, but it's not really happening. I think he kind of reminds me a lot of like young Jordan Love, except he's old for a rookie. He's a very similar. He's got the kind of same skill set, but the same kind of frustrations that you see with Jordan Love, and just so hopefully he doesn't have to sit behind a arrogant, self-centered future Hall of Famer for a couple of years, and he can kind of run some of that stuff out of him with live bullets. But I think he probably is going to go around the 105, something like that in Superflex.
All right. Always Forward asks, do you guys review teams and tell users the best route for their team in rookie drafts, I'm assuming? Absolutely, Always Forward. You can reach out to us at any time. We are happy to give our advice. I'm pretty sure I speak for everybody here. It's what we love to talk about. So, yeah, reach out to any of us on X or Blue Sky or 4chan. I think that's where you are, Doug, right? I'm just kidding. Doug is on 8chan. All right, Joe, you are up with the 10th pick.
I'm going to take here the guy who I thought was the most surprising pick of the first round. Doesn't mean bad, but I was shocked when the Buccaneers took Emeka Egbuka. one of the top players on my board. I think, where did I end up having him pre-draft? He was 22, so it's similar range. And I feel a little low about that, to be honest. But he's just one of the safest players of this entire class as far as rookies go. But again, all three of my picks so far, maybe not 2025 great picks, but even still, Egbuka is going to get time as the wide receiver 2 or even 1 on this team. Mike Evans, future Hall of Famer, has hamstrings made of glass now, or paper mache. But Chris Godwin is one of my favorite players, but coming off injury, how long will he be able to stay healthy? Will a second knee surgery just kind of end his career functionally? But Egbuka fits into that power slot flanker role. He's going to be on the field a lot in his career, if nothing else, because he is maybe one of the best blockers in this class, regardless of position. I think he's a better blocker than a lot of the tackles were in this class, which says something for a guy who's maybe 205. But again, it's going to keep him on the field, and with so many receivers, no block, no rock. So he's going to get the rock enough. I don't think he'll ever be a fantasy wide receiver 1, but I think this is as safe as you can get towards the end of the second round. You can get a locked in wide receiver 16 to 22, I think, for the next 8 years. I will take that here.
All right. Now, would you rank him, maybe not yet this year, around Chris Olave? Another Ohio State gentleman?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Olave, obviously the top dog on his team, but Tyler Shook versus
QB,
Baker.
right.
Yeah, I think that's probably reasonable. I think I'd project. What did I? Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I'd say around there. I'd probably go for Olave over him just in case Olave stays healthy. Should put up bigger numbers.
Okay.
Hey Joe, I was going to say if I had landed on the Egbuka, I was going to say basically something to the effect of he's going to be a reward for those people that were probably contending for their fantasy titles last year. He's going to be a nice reward for the 111, 112 pickers that just you should be able to lock in wide receiver 2, 3 value for what you said, 6 to 8 years. So yeah, I like strong pick for the future. Maybe not so much 2025, but definitely for the future. Yes.
This is the sort of pick. Oh, go ahead, JJ.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is sort of pick that keeps contending teams contending for more than a typical 3-year window.
It's like Howie Roseman in the real draft. You're always like, how the hell did they end up with him?
Eagles and the Ravens, every time.
Every time. All right, Doug, with the penultimate pick in the first round.
Penultimate. I like it. I am going to enunciate penultimate. All right.
Please don't.
Okay, so I think in the majority of rookie drafts, there's going to be 8 consistent receiver and running back picks. And I know I had Loveland earlier, but he's not always going to be in the top 8. I just happen to like him that much. RJ Harvey is the 6th and final running back of the 8 that I'm referring to. I think Harvey plays a lot like Jaylen Warren, which makes him an interesting addition in Denver. With only Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime to compete with, he should be considered the favorite to lead the Broncos backfield in 2025. That shouldn't come as a shock. He runs with power, rarely goes down on ankle tackles, and has proven to be a weapon as a pass catcher out of the backfield. He's also very explosive. He had 21.6% of his runs went for 10-plus yards over the last 2 seasons. Needless to say, I think his big playability will be appreciated in Denver, but I think asking him to be a featured back might be a bit much since he needs to correct his ball security and blocking issues. With that said, Harvey's status as a second-round selection who was handpicked by Peyton likely guarantees he's going to start. And I think given Denver's reluctance to this point to overuse McLaughlin and Estime's inability to take advantage of his opportunities last year, I think Harvey's going to have a chance to be a workhorse. To use some of Peyton's previous backs as an example of what I think Harvey is going to be, I fear that Harvey is going to end up being more prime Pierre Thomas than Alvin Kamara, which is to say he should be a very good, but maybe short of great in fantasy.
God, it's nice to hear Pierre Thomas's name bandied about. He was a fun player. What about Tyler Beatty, Doug? You don't mention him as being in the backfield?
My bad.
Oh. All right, that's the pod. We are done. No, we have to finish. That was good. I deserve that one. Joel, where are you going with the final pick?
Well, I mentioned Tyler Warren earlier, and I'll take him here. I kind of like Egbuka, not a pick for this year, but I think he can kind of develop into maybe kind of similar to a George Kittle type. So if that's something you want on your roster going forward, he could be kind of a positional advantage at tight end, even if it's not a tight end premium. So maybe a little slow going with him, but someone I think you can kind of build your kind of future tight end room around.
All right, so Tyler Warren goes with the last pick in the first round. Let's recap. Looking at the first round, we had Ashton Jeanty, Omarion Hampton, Tet McMillan, and TreVeyon Henderson in the top 4, followed by Travis Hunter, Quinshon Judkins, Colston Loveland, and Kaleb Johnson. Finally, with Cam Ward, Emeka Egbuka, RJ Harvey, and Tyler Warren. Joe, looking at this first round, anybody surprise you?
I would say T-Mac is the biggest surprise, but I agree that he should be the third pick. Just I've seen so many of my pretty much every draft I've done that I've got him at 8 a couple times. It looks like another draft I'm going to do, I might get him at 10. So, but that would be the biggest surprise. I think he's awesome. What? Like, right?
Can I join those?
Drafting with a bunch of fish.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of people going running back crazy, and then T-Mac got so much hate, but yeah, he's a great prospect.
What about you, Jameson? Anybody surprise you in the first round?
Not necessarily. It's just a mix and match. I think sometimes it's depending on the tight ends, like Colston Loveland going there. Because Tyler Warren, I mean, I feel like is pretty split between people. Tyler Warren is the more well-rounded tight end, Mackey Award winner. Colston Loveland, I don't want to call him a wide receiver, but basically that's what the Ben Johnson and company is going to draft him to be. Is just so it just compared like Colston Loveland to some of these running backs, just depending on how they fall. Some of the running backs I'd have them above a tight end, but that's just more of the choice of, the Bears. They have a bunch of weapons. We have another one that'll get drafted here shortly. So it just ends up kind of limiting the ceiling, I would think. But outside of that, it's just going to be a hodgepodge of just randomness after, probably pick 6. So not too surprising, but it just depends on what flavor you like.
All right, diehards. Well, Dynasty Leagues are without a doubt the fastest growing segment in all of fantasy sports. That's why we're talking about them here tonight. The Dynasty Football World Championships, now in their 13th season, are underway. Jump in a new startup and draft your own team from the beginning, and you'll be well on your way to becoming the next Dynasty King. Drafts start at just $75 with $150, $299, and higher options available. Head to dynastyking.com and look for the Dynasty Football World Championship. All right, Jameson, let's kick off round 2.
Guess I'll kick it off with some explosion here, and I'm going to pick Luther Burden. He was highly recruited prospect. I think last year's Missouri team is just kind of especially toward the end of the year, just seems like they kind of thrown in the towel. But this is the kind of prospect that will ruin a DB's life. I mean, just over the top, the explosiveness, the yak ability, the yards after the catch. And then you have Ben Johnson being the one pushing the buttons and pulling the trigger with them. So I think you can see him doing some stuff out of the backfield, like kind of as a running back. I mean, I think there's all sorts of stuff that they can do with Luther Burden. He's an explosive wide receiver. I would not be surprised if he ends up being like a top 3. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he was the top wide receiver in this draft when it's all said and done. Probably a little bit of a hot take, but I think that's a ceiling is what I'm trying to get at there. So getting him this late, I know DJ Moore's there. We'll see kind of after this year because we'll see how much Ben Johnson likes him. They still have Rome Odunze. He was okay last year, but, they obviously drafted Colston Loveland as well, but I just think Luther Burden is a dart throw here that I'm just going to take a chance on every single time.
All right. Well, Cavacoos loved your pick of Luther Bird in there at the 201. Joe, where are we going?
Well, I'm heartbroken now.
No.
Sorry, Chief.
Great pick. We'll have words about this later, Jameson.
We could do this again tomorrow if you'd like.
Oh, no thanks. It can only take so much hurt. This is a spot where in any draft, I would definitely recommend trying to trade back. I think there's a tier of 10 players maybe that's super similar. So if you could trade back and get 2 of those picks, that would be my goal. But here, I'll go with Jayden Higgins. One of the 2 drafted wide receivers from the Texans. Not sure. And one of the 2 Iowa State receivers. I'm not sure if he was the best Iowa State receiver, but adding in the draft capital, I think Houston was the perfect landing spot for him. He's not a true X receiver. Most teams would have forced him into that role, kind of like how the Panthers forced Xavier Legette into it last year. He does fit more in that power slot flanker role where he can use that athletic ability, jump ball ability. I think this is going to be a really good fit as a wide receiver too, next to a top 5 receiver in Nico Collins. Again, he's probably upside of a fantasy wide receiver too, but again, 14th overall, I'm content with this.
All right. Jayden Higgins goes at pick number 14 overall to Joe. Doug, where are we going with pick number 15?
Boys, you know what I like to do when I make my second round picks? I like to have guys that I can use as the icon for my team image, right? You know what I'm talking about? Isn't that Cam Skattebo?
Yeah.
Hey, guys, watching Cam Skattebo is almost as fun as saying his name. What is not fun is trying to tackle him. While I am probably losing 90% of our audience with this reference, I'm not sure I've seen a back run more like John Riggins than Skattebo, which is to say I think he'll quickly become the coach's and fan favorite.
The famous Jet.
The famous Jet, that's right.
What he was known for.
The beauty of the pairing with Tyrone Tracy is that Tracy is more of a slasher with big playability, and Skattebo is more of a pure power back. The thing that makes Skattebo different than most power backs is that he's also a very good receiver, considering how much punishment he absorbs from week to week. I think he ends up leading the backfield at some point, but I fear his long-term viability. I fear for his long-term viability because of how much punishment he absorbs. Now, if he ends up being more selective with how often he takes on contact, then a second-round rookie pick is too late for him. He should be probably top 10 pick. I fear for the durability. However, I can see a world in which he ends up being nothing more than a committee back because he can't stay healthy, and much like Tracy, he has a fumbling issue. So, more questions than I want to take on as a first round running back pick, but yeah, sign me up for him about early second round.
All right, Cam Skattebo off the board. Joel with pick 16. Where are you going?
Can I make trades?
No.
I don't want to make this pick. This is where I'm actively trying to get out of this pick. If I don't want to make this pick, but if I have to, I'll shoot the upside. I'll take Bhayshul Tuten.
I like it.
I think could have kind of the Bucky Irving ceiling in that Jacksonville backfield with Liam Cohen there. Travis Etienne's in the last year of his deal. Tank Bigsby's nothing special. So I can see one of those guys be moved in the preseason before we even get to the regular season, and Tuten just kind of taking over that backfield. So I'm just going to shoot for ceiling here and take the running back that I think could be the RB1 and potentially a real good offense.
Now, Joel, if you rewind to our last when we did JJ and I did our running back episode, JJ did nothing but make fun of Bruton Tuten, Bhayshul Tuten. So
I did, because I worry about his fumbling. But if I'm being completely transparent, Doug, I have taken him quite a bit in my FCE leagues. my fantasy care eliminators. I've taken him in 3 leagues so far.
The few leagues I have a mid to late second round pick, I'm praying that he drops to me there, like around the 2.8, 2.9 area. But this is, in my estimation, this is not too early for him.
All right. Bhayshul Tuten off the board. Jameson, where are you going with the pick 17?
I'm very frustrated right now. I would also like to ask if I could trade the pick. I already know the answer is going to be no. And I'm also mad at Joel right now because I wanted him to be a homer and pick the guy who I feel like I have to pick here because I can't trade. So I will pick Matthew Golden for the Packers. First, I mean, it has to be special if the Packers would actually pick him in the first round. I mean, they've skipped on every wide receiver known to man, but seem to pick him. Christian Watson's probably not playing next year. Matthew Golden is a speedster. Texas has kind of had a Quinn Ewers problem, and I feel like every time a wide receiver leaves the facility, they get better. So maybe that's the case with Matthew Golden. The one worry I kind of have with him is a lot of his production, the high-end production, came when Isaiah Bond got hurt last year, towards the end of the year. So Golden, he's a first-round pick. I'm kind of worried about him, I guess, in some aspect, just because the Packers wide receivers all just seem to fall on their face. I mean, Jane Reed had a good 3 weeks, and after that, I mean, they got Romeo Dobbs. They have Dontavian Wicks, who I don't know what's happened to him, but he's fallen off the earth. So I feel I have to take Golden here. I'm hoping my running back comes back to me down the road so I can talk about him, but that'll be my official pick.
All right. Now, Joel, as a Packers fan, why didn't you take Matthew Golden? I think that says a lot more than Jameson picking him.
It does.
Tough spot.
Honestly, I hated the pick, and that he doesn't really give them anything that they don't already have. He can catch the ball better than Dontavian Wicks can, but otherwise, yeah, he's nominally faster. Yeah, pretty low bar. He's nominally faster than those guys, but I don't think he played as fast as he ran. So I think he's got more track speed than pad speed. So I think he could just get designated and just be like the kind of designated field stretcher and more than he's actually a productive fantasy player.
All right, Matthew Golden. We'll see if the receivers get better.
Pick made a lot more sense for the Packers than does for fantasy.
100%. Yeah.
He fits perfectly in their flanker role, Reed in the slot, and then Wicks / Dubs for that sacrificial X, and Golden being the vertical drag route guy, vertical or drag route.
Man, I am staying away from that team's wide receivers. In redraft, oosh.
I don't know. At the same time, it's like if they're going to fall to the 17th pick in a rookie draft, I mean, he went 22 in the NFL draft. You're almost getting
23.
Yep.
23. You're almost getting him at his draft capital. So I feel like that's definitely worth a risk at this point. And I was not a Golden guy whatsoever, but
were you more of a Golden girl?
Wow.
Elite show. S-tier show.
Thank you for being a
Beautiful.
friend. All right. Man, I like that show.
All-timer.
Wait. JJ can sing and I can't. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, at least you're speaking truth. I think we've all proved that tonight.
Wow.
All right. With pick 18, Joe, where are you going?
So if you know me at all, there's a quarterback who plays in the Northeast that I kind of love a lot by the name of Drake May. And I'm going to go with his new wide receiver 1, Kyle Williams, from the other north part of the country. I think Williams is someone who I think every draft expert, fantasy guy, other football fan got to really late. But dude's just freaking awesome. I don't think he's a true wide receiver 1 in the league, but upper level wide receiver 2. Gives a level of security and after the catchability that no one else on this Patriots roster has, assuming Stephon Diggs isn't back to what Stephon Diggs was, which would be kind of a shock considering the age and injury. But he reminded me a lot of a Jayden Reed, and I will take that with a Drake May, someone who I think can be a wide receiver 18 overall, maybe give or take a few spots. Just, I really like the player, loved the value in the draft. And again, there's no other competition for him really. So I'll take it.
That's a
Joe,
great pick.
If I can jump in before JJ cuts me off here. So have you read where the New England plans on using him as the X or starting him out as the X?
I saw that. Interesting. I don't think it's crazy though.
No, I don't think it's crazy because he won as the X. He won. Thanks, Carla. Yeah. He won as the X at Washington State. Now, of course, winning as the X at Washington State and winning as the X in the pros are two different things, obviously. But I love the idea because we're talking about getting their three best receivers, or I think their three best receivers on the field, assuming Diggs can be something resembling himself. But now keep Demario Douglas in the slot, have Kyle Williams play as the X, and have Stephon Diggs being slow because of the knee, but using him as the Z and get him away from press coverage too. I like all of that. I think Williams was miscast pretty much throughout the pre-draft process. He's a guy that can win YAC, and he's a guy that can win deep. Kudos to you.
Even if Jalen Polk, a guy who I loved last year, grossly now, if he can put it together a little bit, he's not an X, which a lot of people labeled him as, but power slot, flanker sort, like flopping around with Diggs makes a lot of sense for that room.
Yeah, I agree.
Kyle Williams he cooked at the Senior Bowl. He's the big play generator that the Patriots haven't had in like 3 years. I mean, I think Drake May is probably the fastest guy on the team until he came along. That's how bad these wide receivers have been. So, I mean, I think this is a great pick as well. And one that went overlooked, during the entire draft process. And then I think even some of these drafts too. I mean, this is one of these darts that you want to throw on a guy like this.
All right, before we get to the back half of the second round, we have a question from JTube, who just did his first Dynasty draft. He wants to know how he did. Superflex, tight end premium, Nix, Williams, Lance, and Milton at QB. Both Cardinals and both Commanders running backs, tight ends, Bowers and Mayer. And then his wide receivers are Puka, Odunze, Worthy, Shakir, Jennings, Dell, Tre Harris, and Palmer. I would say first getting Bowers as your tight end in a tight end premium league is great.
Mm-hmm.
I would get a backup that's not his backup. Michael Mayer is not going to step into his role if anything happens to him. So I would make sure you pick up somebody off the waiver wire. Joel, any thoughts on that squad? I'll put it back up there for you.
Yeah, I agree. I would want a second tight end that's not Bowers' backup. I'd be a little nervous about the running back situation. You dodged a bullet in the draft with the Commanders not taking a running back. So you're okay for this year, but I don't think you have much of a foundation there. So I would want to see what I can, find something. This is a draft to do it. There's a lot of good running backs out there. You'll find some decent running backs in the third, fourth round, or second, third round. So that's where I would kind of focus, is trying to upgrade that running back room.
Not to spoil a name in this draft, but definitely pick up Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt.
Thank you. Yes.
Priority pickup.
All right, JTube, feel free to hit us up on social media if you have any other questions.
And I'm sorry, JJ. I'll just add that I think that entire backfield that is 2025 only. I think you could be looking at Brian Robinson's going to stick around, but Eckler could be done after this year. Connor's going to be 31 starting next year. Benson will be nice to have, but I guess come to think of it, you'll have Benson and Robinson doing something, but you need a better RB1 than what those two are going to offer.
I don't think this is a championship contending team this year, but it's a spectacular foundation for 2026 to 2029.
Agree. Young in the QB room. That's what you want. All right, Doug, pick 19.
This will not come as a surprise to JJ because I talked so highly about Jack Bech during the pre-draft process. There may not be a better fit player and coach from this draft than best two Raiders. Las Vegas wants to run the ball and play physically under head coach Pete Carroll and offense coordinator Chip Kelly. Bech will help the Raiders do that with his commitment as a blocker, but he offers so much more than that. He offers surprising upside as a receiver, drawing, when I say legitimate, I'll say somewhat legitimate comps to Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Anquan Bolden with his play style. And I just mean with his play style. He had a 1.6% drop rate in 2024 and a 2.9% drop rate throughout his career at LSU and TCU. So at the very least, he's dependable. His biggest issue has been durability. Now, in my estimation, he should serve as a starter immediately in Vegas and allow the Raiders to use J.J. Winner favorite Jacoby Myers out of the slot as often as they want. The problem with Bech being considered the next Kupp or Nacua is that Geno Smith is not Matthew Stafford. Much like Emeka Egbuka, Bech should be considered a high floor prospect. The thing I question is how high that ceiling will ever be in Vegas.
All right. So Jack Bech off the board at pick 19. Joel, where are you going at pick 20?
I'll take a guy I'm very nervous about, but went to a very good situation. That's Tre Harris, the Ole Miss receiver who went to the Chargers. They obviously need a receiver with some size, with really only Ladd McConkey, and I'm not counting Quinshon Judkins. So I just have I don't want to just say he's the next Jonathan Mingo. That's not fair to him. He actually tested better than I thought he would. He had a really good combine. I didn't think he'd do very well at the combine at all, and he actually did pretty well. So that's a good point in his favor. That Ole Miss offense is just really heavily schemed, so I think there's going to be a transition period. But like I said, it's a very good spot for him to go to be paired up with Justin Herbert with the Chargers.
All right. Tre Harris off the board at pick 20. Jameson, you are up at pick 21.
All righty. I feel like I'm doing a little bit of a reach here, and I feel like I'm on the right side of this and other people aren't, but I'm going to pick Jaydon Blue, the running back for the Cowboys. It's just the situation. I'll get to the prospect in a minute, but Javonte Williams has been one of the least efficient runners the last couple of years, even after coming back from injury. Miles Sanders, I cannot believe we are talking about in 2025, and that's his competition. So, I mean, Jaydon Blue is a 5'9" explosive bolt of lightning. Does some stuff out of the slot. He's fast as hell. He's great after contact. I think he ends up, he could end up getting production week 1. I just don't see a situation where Miles Sanders is beating Blue out. Just we've seen Miles Sanders, and I don't think Javonte Williams is that great. And I just think almost kind of like Rico Dowdle last year. He was going up against Ezekiel Elliott. You knew that the tide would turn eventually. It did. Rico Dowdle had a really great stretch towards the end of the year. And I'm just these are the kind of situations and guys that I end up falling for. So I'm going to go with Blue here. And I just, as far as these running backs go, I think he's in a great spot to capitalize on it.
All right. Chicken Jaydon Blue goes at pick 21. Joe, where are you going at pick 22?
That was a corny joke, JJ. Goodness gracious.
Thank you.
Here, like we've said for the last few picks, this is a great trade down spot, especially with there are 3 tight ends here that I really like. So I actually did this in a league today. Just was in similar to the spot, traded back and let the decision get made for me. But I'm going to go with Terrance Ferguson here, who went to my local high school. If I did not go to a private school, played football with my cousin at Heritage, where my sister also went. Anyway, McVay has been dying to run his offense through a tight end for however long he's been there. See that whenever Tyler Higbee comes back from the injury he always gets every year. McVay always tries to give him like 30 targets the first week back, even if he's clearly only on one leg. So I think Ferguson, great athlete, just overall really good player. I've gotten him in the 4th round in a couple drafts, which I don't understand why he and the other tight ends are falling, at least in my leagues. But I think any of them here, especially Ferguson, just with the opportunity cost, and Higbee's there, so maybe not. Ferguson might not do much this year, but for the future, I think Ferguson there's a real path. He's the second target for whoever the next quarterback is in the Rams in the McVay system. So I'll take it.
All right, Terrance Ferguson. Now, our buddy Brian Drake loves to call the other Ferguson. Who's the other Ferguson?
Jake?
Jake.
Yeah.
Turd Ferguson.
Turd Ferguson,
Now
yeah.
we have a T Ferguson. So I think Terrance is now the new Turd Ferguson for him. So thinking of you, Brian Drake. Hope you're doing well, buddy. All right,
Hey guys,
Doug.
I'm sorry again here. I know coaches tend to be hyperbolic with their post-draft statements and whatever, but who were the first two names that Sean McVay mentioned when he talked about the Terrance Ferguson pick? Chris Cooley and Travis Kelce. So even if you want to buy into, don't want to buy into that being hyperbolic, or if you do want to buy into that being hyperbolic, it gives you an idea of what he sees Ferguson being. And Ferguson's a good enough athlete to pay that off. Now, I'm not saying he's Kelce, but what I'm saying is he can definitely pay off at a late second-round rookie pick.
All right. Cooley comp. Gotta love that, Doug. Pick number 23. Where are you going, buddy?
Yeah, I'm going to being that Joe has pressed the tight end issue, I'm going to go with one of my favorite tight ends here as well and ignore my rankings a little bit. Give me Elijah Arroyo. Now, he wasn't a need pick with Noah Fant and A.J. Barner around, but no one should be surprised if he ends up being the long-term answer at position. He's one of the few tight end prospects available who creates separation easily with his speed and changes direction easily for a 250-pounder, which is one of the reasons why he's such a threat after the catch. Now, I think the primary reason he wasn't a first-round pick, because he could have easily been one, was that the ACL injury that he suffered, I think, was it 3 seasons ago, kind of carried over 2 seasons. And so his breakout year last year was something like 35 catches for, 500 yards. And so, we're not talking about, when we talk about breakouts, we don't usually talk about 35 catches. But what he did when he had the opportunity, and you could see as the Miami season went along last year, how much he was improving as the season was progressing. So Arroyo may end up becoming a good blocker down the road, but the reason he was drafted was because he's an elite athlete who can stretch the field. Perhaps the thing that makes him the most intriguing is that he brings wide receiver movement skills to the tight end position and has the size that Seattle's other receivers, primary targets, that being Jackson Smith and Jake Ben Cooper Cup, don't have. Personally, if I don't have Brock Bowers or Trey McBride on my roster, I'm making Arroyo a priority at the end of the second round of my drafts.
All right. Elijah Arroyo. The two tight ends go back-to-back who went after the Jets tight end. This is a Jets podcast, so that doesn't make me too happy. But, Joel, where are we going with the final pick in the draft?
So I'm going to go deep here. You guys asked me before why I didn't take Matthew Golden. There's a reason for that, in that I think the Packers drafted another receiver who will be the best fantasy receiver for them. And that is the young man from Texas Christian named Savion Williams. Now, the kid is raw like sushi, copyright Nana Cherry, for those of you who are of my age, remember that. But we know how much Matt LaFleur likes to copy his mentor, Kyle Shanahan. Savion Williams they basically used him in the Deebo Samuel roles. I think he could be used as an offensive weapon there. And he's the only receiver that has any size. He's like 6'4", 220, something like that. He ran a 4.4 40, so he's got good athleticism. He was on the same team with Jack Bech. And if you watch the Baylor game, he was the best player on the field that day. So I think there's some real upside. I think he could, if you're in a touchdown heavy format, like a half PPR, something like that, I think he's going to lead the team, and not necessarily the team, but he will lead the receiver room in touchdowns. So he's probably not going to go here, but if you want someone to take a chance on who has some real high upside at this point, I think it's Savion Williams.
Well, tell me about it as if you were the Buffalo stance. Right? Wasn't that Nana Cherry?
100%. You got it.
That wasn't Nana Cherry.
Yeah, look at that. Wow. That is a throwback, Joel. Well, gentlemen, let's recap the second round. We had Luther Burden, followed by Jayden Higgins, Cam Skattebo, and Bhayshul Tuten. Then we had Matthew Golden, Kyle Williams, Jack Bech, and Tre Harris. Finishing off with Jaydon Blue, Terrance Ferguson, Elijah Arroyo, and Savion Williams. I want to know who is the best of the rest, right? Who are the players that you thought might have snuck into the back end of this round, or the guys who you're putting at the top of your queue for the third round? So, Joel, who are you looking at?
One guy I think has some upside is Devin Neal, the running back who went to the Saints. For me, he was the Kyron Williams of this draft, in that he's not for everyone. He's not super athletic. He doesn't have a ton of size, but he's just good at everything, right? He's a good runner, good receiver, good pass protector, doesn't fumble. He's just going to be a coach's pet. He's going to be the guy that coaches trust, and they're going to put on the field because they don't screw up their plans. They get, they don't dance around. They get 3 yards when 3 yards is blocked. So I think he's going to be that Kellen Moore likes, unlike his predecessor, Kedre Miller, who the former coach that hated. So yeah, I think he's got, he's not going to be spectacular, but I think he's got a chance to earn snaps just because he's solid at everything.
Jameson, who is a guy that you would like to pick up here at the top of the third?
If you are in need of a quarterback, I mean, there's a first-round quarterback in Jackson Dart that has some running ability. I feel like that's a little bit of a cop-out, but just like another actual weapon, so to speak, I think Jalen Noel, the other Iowa State wide receiver, with Tank Dell's injury, I mean, these rookies are going to end up seeing the field. So him and his other teammate from Iowa State, I think he can end up having some fantasy impact.
All right. Joe.
I'll stick with the tight end room and go make you happy, JJ, and go with Mason Taylor. Bloodlines, he was 40th pick? Top, give or take a few.
Yeah,
210,
so 42. Just really good player. Again, I don't know if he's not Brock Bowers. I don't think he's Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren, but I think he can be a borderline tight end one for a long time. He's the second target on this team right now, and a worthy second target.
All right, Doug. Testing your depth, because we like to go deep. So deep. Where's Sean when we need him? Go ahead, Doug.
There's three guys on my top 24 that weren't drafted, and Jameson, I believe, already touched on Jalen Knowles, so I'll get the other two. Jalen Royals for the Chiefs. I know there's not an immediate path to playing time for him, but if you look at it, Rice is hurt and probably going to be suspended at some point this year. Marquise Brown is on a 1-year contract, and I think the reason Xavier Worthy became a thing down the stretch is because he was using the Rice role. So, what I guess what I'm saying is, at the very worst, Marquise Brown is probably gone at the end of the year, and Royals steps into that role, and so now you got two big run after the catch, contested catch guys in Rice and Royals playing with Mahomes, which is not the worst thing in the world. And the other guy that I had in the top 24, which maybe I'll get a chance to talk about tomorrow, is Jalen Milroe. I know not a lot of people are a fan of his, and if you watch the Oklahoma game, for example, you probably don't like him. If you watch how many times he ran for a 40-yard touchdown, you probably do like him. So I'll bet on a guy who's you hear him talk, he's a sharp guy. I don't think either one of the coaching staffs in Alabama did a good job of actually helping him become a better quarterback. So I think he might have that chance to do that this year, sitting behind Sam Darnold. And I think if they end up correcting a lot of his fundamental flaws, we're looking at the most dangerous quarterback, most feared quarterback in this draft.
I like to hear that.
Yes.
All right, gentlemen. Well, that was a good pod. It's time to say goodbye and let people know where they can find us and any final thoughts we might have. Joel, you are up first, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Good to see all you guys again. You can find me on the IDP Plus network, doing a lot of best ball stuff right now. Going to do a schedule release show that'll be recording tonight. The schedule obviously dropped tonight. Schedule very important for best ball with the bye weeks and the week 17 correlations and stuff like that. So we'll be doing a reaction show to that tonight. And then you can find me doing Dynasty on the Club Fantasy Network as well.
All right, Joe.
You can find me on Blue Sky and X at JoeLo63, and the Fantasy and Frames Network, where writing articles, a lot of rookie stuff. I just had one drop today for first round rookie wide receiver fallout. And then the Rod Pod. Tomorrow, we are back. The literal we.
The literal
Thanks
we,
for having
not
me on.
just the royal we.
Yes.
J-Mo, what
I'm
are
on-
you up to besides raising the next Messi?
Outside of raising the next soccer superstar, 7 years old, he's averaging like 2 goals a game. I just couldn't be more proud. I don't care. If I could bet on a 7-year-old scoring a goal, I would. I would lay the absolute hammer. So, but enough of my kid and more about me. I'm on the Twitter machine as always. Jameson Rules, Fantasy and Frames doing the Rod Pod Rider Dynasty starting tomorrow. Doing a Superflex mock draft, so we'll get to talk about Jackson Dart and Milrow and Tyler Shuck. We'll get to him tomorrow. But other than that, just I'm in Discord over in Fantasy Frames. Anybody wants to talk shop, anybody wants to talk some wrestling, I'm always up for that. But that's all I got for the moment. It's early. It's May, I think.
That's
Couldn't
not
tell you
going to
what day
work
it
for
is.
me, brother.
No,
All right, Doug, what do you have?
Guys, the 3 J's here, Joel, Joe, and Jameson, thank you for showing up and delivering a good show tonight. Catch me on my Doug Orth is the handle on Twitter and on the Blue Sky. I don't have anything going on FF Today or Fantasy Points for the next month, but I will begin my preparation for such things here in the next week or so. So that's what I got to go on. JJ.
All right, this might be a little bit long, but I'm at JJ Wetter on the socials. You can follow the pod at FF Diehards on X. On a personal note, I went through a little bit of a family emergency that rocked my world 2 weeks ago tonight. I don't know if I will ever go back to who I was before it happened. And I didn't know if I would be back doing pods. But friends like Joel, Joe, Jameson, and many others offered a kind ear and support. A huge shout out to Doug and my friend Ryan McDowell, who were there every minute of the way, checking in, offering up support and prayers. I appreciate you both more than you would ever know, despite what I say about Doug on the pod. So, yeah, thank you to everybody, and I'm so happy to be here tonight. Thank you all for listening, for your comments. Please like and subscribe. Thank you, Joel, Joe, Jameson, for helping out tonight. At the Joel Worth, at Joe Low 63, at Jameson Rules. Make sure you're following these guys. They know their shit. Please be sure to follow Doug at Doug Orth everywhere. Read all of his work, FF Today, Fantasy Points, blah, blah, blah. Make sure to follow Full-Time Fantasy on X and stay tuned for exciting updates about the FFWC. We will be back next week at Wednesday at 8 p.m. Be sure to tune in. Until then, remember, be safe, be well. And as always, boat drinks, my friends. Boat drinks.